All right, we're in downtown Upland, right off of 2nd and A Street, in front of the one and only Cooper Museum. And I'm here with Ann, who's going to take us on a tour of Upland. What kind of tour are we talking about?
We do a historic walking tour of downtown Upland. It's on the second Saturday of the month. We meet at 10 a.m. right here on the steps of the museum. It's a 1-mile loop around downtown Upland. It takes about 2 hours, and we highlight all the people, the places, the businesses, the history, how we became Upland out of North Ontario, and how we just became a city. It's a free walking tour. We have a suggested $5 donation, which goes directly to the Cooper Museum. It's a regional history museum that supports all the local communities and their history. About 1882 is where we pick up. The Chaffee brothers came in about 1880 and started purchasing some land over in Etiwanda. They were able to then purchase about 10,000 acres in this area, all the way up from San Antonio Heights all the way down into Ontario. They've developed the Ontario Land Company, and from there they started selling the property. In 1887, the Bedford brothers bought 200 acres of land from the Ontario Land Company, and that's the downtown that we know of today. Oh. So from the railroad tracks up to Arrow, from Campus to Euclid, this was their 200 acres. And with those 200 acres, they established our business district. They donated land for churches and started plotting out for homes. They got the Santa Fe Railroad to build a rail station here. They did a lot. Now, 1887 was a real estate boom. People were buying land, reselling it 6 months later, making a profit. They're buying stuff they really couldn't afford. So 1888 came the real estate bust.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that happened years ago also?
Yes, absolutely. Wow. 1888, real estate bust. People stopped paying on their plots to the Bedford brothers. And without them paying, they couldn't pay the bank. And there was some long, complicated legal proceedings, some back and forth, some name calling between the two. But eventually the land was foreclosed on. In 1891, Charles Harwood and his brother purchased quite a bit of the property from them. We kind of kept plugging along, and in 1897 the town was flourishing again. The Bedford brothers were trying to make their own town called Magnolia. Never really quite took off. In addition to the business block, they also had built a beautiful 3-story Victorian Hotel as well. A couple windstorms had knocked it down.
Wait, we have wind in the Inland Empire?
Yeah. I know, it did a lot of damage on the hotel, and with no money coming in from people paying, plus no revenue from the hotel, it was kind of a double whammy. So 1891, Harwood bought the property, started redeveloping it, and by 1897 we had 2 different newspapers here. We had a flourishing business district once again. We became our own township in 1902. We became the Upland Township, and in 1906 we voted to become our own city.
All right, Ann, so what are we staying in front of now, today?
Today we're staying in front of Pacific Wine Merchants, and they have a great wine on Friday nights. They also have cigars and a wine bar and lots of things. But this station was actually built in 1931. But prior to that, we had the original station was built by the Bedford brothers in 1887 when they established the district. So it was in the middle of 2nd Avenue, where the street is today. It was right there in the center. It was built at a cost of $7,000. And they were the one who really lobbied with the Santa Fe to get the station put here in what they was hoping to be Magnolia. Turned out to be North Ontario and then Upland. So without that, we really wouldn't have had all the development in the business district to support it. Because of this station was here, we were able to, packing houses flocked to the area. Oh. Many packing houses and citrus associations sprung up all along here on the railroad tracks. And that only not processed citrus from Upland, but also from Ontario as well. And that supported, of course, our business and our downtown. This station served passenger traffic till about the 1960s, and then when the Metrolink came back in the 90s, it started with passenger traffic again. So here on the southwest corner of 2nd and 9th, this is where we actually voted to become a city. We are standing in front of Edna Swans' second photography studio. Her first studio was up near the Pacific Electric Railroad tracks and right next to the old Colonial Theater. We used to have 2 movie theaters here in downtown Upland. Oh. She had met her husband Earl when they served on yearbook at Chaffee High School in 1915. They fell in love over photography. They were both avid photographers. So they graduated high school, got married, and opened up a business all within a year of each other. So the original studio was, like I mentioned, up by the Pacific Electric Railroad tracks in the old Colonial Theater. Then by 1920 they were here. They were married for 9 years, Unfortunately, Earl left Edna with 3 children to raise. Anytime you opened up a commercial business down here, she would photograph your business. She did houses. If you built a new home, she would come do it. So anything really. She's kind of our town's unofficial photographer. And many of the photos that we have today of our historic downtown and of Upland are because of Edna Swans' photography that we have. So we're very fortunate that her entire collection is up at the Upland Public Library and the Cooper Museum. So we get a chance to enjoy the photos. She operated for almost 50 years here in downtown Upland.
Wow.
She worked.
Just a little stop on the tour.
In 1964, this U was installed, and actually used to be a lot taller, but a big wind came through and knocked it down, and the local newspaper ran a story that said there will never be another U.
All right, we're standing in front of Molly's Super. Now, I had a friend of mine years ago bring me here, and whew, good. But I noticed the Upland Inn sign in front of it. Was this the Upland Inn?
Yes, no, this was not the Upland Inn. The Upland Inn was actually right down on 9th and 1st on the corner. It was built as the Hotel Aliquin in the early 1900s, became the Upland Inn in the 1920s, and operated as a family restaurant in residence. Believe it or not, Upland used to be a great vacation destination. People would come for the clean air, the citrus blossoms in the air, and they would come here to rest, recuperate, escape the harsh winters. So we had several hotels in the area, and the Upland Inn was one of them. And sadly, it was destroyed in a fire. But they salvaged the sign and have mounted it right here in front of Molly's Super.
Oh, wow. Now, and Molly's is closed right now, aren't they?
Yes.
Oh. And I've always loved this row of buildings. Where are we right now?
Right now we are on D Street between 2nd and 1st. Upland Civic Center is directly behind us. We are right now in front of our Carnegie Library. This was actually not our first library. Our first library was in 1900. The Women's Literary Club, which later came on to become the Women's Club here in Upland, they just established a public reading room. For 50 cents a year, you could subscribe to the reading room and you could have access to all of the books that were there.
And what do we have here in front of us?
This is the fire station. Now, originally it was just one half of the fire station. The second half was built in 1959. This was built in response to a devastating fire that we had here in downtown. So prior to 1912, the only fire equipment we had was a reel of hose and a cart. So you can imagine we had some pretty devastating fires, but December 1912, we had a very devastating fire. The headline was "Upland Threatened with Total Destruction." Ooh. We lost the entire southeast half of downtown. It was completely lost in the fire, and that was really the response for them to build the fire station and actually buy a fire truck as well. It was used until the 1960s, until the new station was
Which is right around the corner.
Right around the corner from us. This was Upland's City Hall. It was built in 1939.
When did the building stop being City Hall?
So the city stopped being City Hall when our Civic Center opened in 1969. At that time, we were still utilizing the property as City Hall. The new one was open, the city vacated, and the police moved in. This used to be the police station from 1969 to about 1990. And
what is it now?
Now it's the Shoei Company, and they are most famous for manufacturing smudge pots in the 30s and 40s. Yeah. But they're still operating. They do lots of different metal, different things.
Okay.
As well. So they actually have a great little exhibit. If you come right in the front door during regular hours, Monday through Friday, you can come and have a small little exhibit of different things related to Upland history that you can come check out for free.
Wow, I dig it. Now where are we?
We're on the Pacific Electric bike path today, but this was the Pacific Electric Railway. And it started in about 1908. It was where this dirt parking lot is today, was where the station was located.
Okay.
In 1914, they had their inaugural trip. They had 8 round trips from Los Angeles to San Bernardino every day, and it went about the same speed as the Metrolink does today.
Wow.
Back in 1914. So 20,000 people came out to San Bernardino to see the first, what they were called red cars.
You do a 2-hour tour.
Absolutely. We go into a lot more detail about everying that we talked about today.
You told me some juicy stuff too.
Absolutely. You should come here. Everything we couldn't air on television. We talk about Mac the Medicine Man. We talk about Peggy Jean's Dress Shop. We talk about the Women's Christians Temperance Union. We talk about the Independent Order of the Odd Fellows. We've been operating the same building down here since 1901. We talk about funeral homes and Red Cross hospitals.
Oh my goodness.
Dr. Mary Craig and all the great things she's done for our community. So we talk about a lot about different things that happen down here, different people. And even if you're not from Upland, you're part of our story, because Upland has expanded, Ontario's expanded, and we all crisscross. So we encourage everyone to kind of come down and see what we have to offer. Come early, stay late, get some lunch, eat some breakfast at one of our great restaurants, and shop in our shops, and just enjoy everything that we have here in downtown Upland.
And thank you so much. Well, you got it, the Upland Historic Walking Tour, only here in the IE. Cool. So we'll go eat.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.